cancer, but her time was too short. So this may be a little bit different than you imagine, and it's going to be a little bit like the party that she wanted to have for you all. I'm just going to tell you there's actually a washroom right in here to the left, and through the open doors past where you came in, just immediately on the right, there's a ladies and men's washroom. If you need garbage, it's up in this area here. We're going to have several people speaking who knew Marsha in different ways, and at the end of this time, we're going to ask people who are strong to help move the chairs to the perimeter, and we're going to bring the 12 tables into the center here, and we'll have a feast. She loved potluck, so everybody has brought things for a potluck, and we'll have a feast together. I'm just going to start in a bit of a funny way. In this day and age, oftentimes people don't put obituaries in the newspaper. They've been on Facebook in different places, but not everybody looks at Facebook either. And my sister, a friend reminded me, loved looking at obituaries in the newspaper. She'd get out the Globe and Mail and go through obituaries of people she didn't know at all. She loved interesting stories, people's life stories and what they did. And so, because we're kind of mixed group here today, some people knew Marsha early in her life, some people later in her life, I just did a little Marsha obituary, so you get a glance of what she did through her life. And then after that, Daniel Brenner's going to come up and talk a bit about their working time at the pottery together, and we'll move through the program. Marsha Dawn Cox was born in Hamilton, Ontario, March the 13th, 1944, when you could still wait for the milk to arrive by horse-drawn wagon, as it was wartime. She attended various elementary schools and Waterdown High School. Marsha had a love for the arts, but was persuaded to look for a more practical career. Guided by neighbor Dr. Stapleton, she trained as an X-ray technician, later working in Hamilton, Sick Kids in Toronto, Uganda, UK, and Dunville. After returning from her Crusoe adventure in Uganda, Marsha dug into the books again and trained as a nuclear medicine technician. She was the first tech at the new McMaster University Hospital. Marsha satisfied her artistic side during this time by painting sets at Theatre Aquarius in Hamilton. Around 1973, Marsha felt the call and enrolled at Sheridan College in the arts program. Here she experimented with silk screening, woodworking, video, and pottery. Pottery piqued her interest, and she packed her bags for Farnham Art School in England. During this time, Marsha also explored the UK while hiking and canoeing with her lifelong friend, Don McWilliams. In 1979, Marsha returned to Ontario to open Forks Road Pottery in the repurposed Forks Road Creamery in Windsor, Ontario. This was to fulfill her goal of bringing functional pottery to Ontario. The 70s had been a time of very funky pottery. Marsha met her business partner, Daniel Brenner. He was a talented and is stonemason, carpenter, and bricklayer, a very essential part of a business housed in antique buildings. Marsha spent countless hours at the wheel making pots for the next 46 years. The location of the pottery changed a few times: a retail outlet in Jordan, Ontario, the Grimsby Great Western Railway Station, and the old tea house of Port Colborne. Marsha was often involved in community projects like Save the Trees along Number 3 Highway and Save the Feeder Canal, and most recently the Niagara Palestinian Coalition. Marsha had a zest for life. She passed away October the 25th, 2025, in a sorrowfully missed.
picture. Hi guys. I would like to just say thank you for coming. It means a lot to us, to all of us, right? That you showed up. It's wonderful. I see myself as part of the wind. Can everybody hear me?
No.
You're good. I see myself as part of the wind that was Marsha. One that was, and to me, is Marsha. Like you and so many people from around the world. Okay. We got to share her passion and live her dream. The amount of pleasure, comfort and pleasure that she shared with us is something to be truly revered. Our lives were all blessed for sure. She was going to retire again, this time for real. She thought it was only fair to let everybody know that they could place one last order. 30 dinner place settings later, along with a bunch of other stuff, she would perform her swan song. When I would ask her what the deal was, she would say that everyone should have one of her pots. There was no off button. Did she get to the end? No. But she did start and did get about half of it done. With that thought in mind, along with some of her friends, we will finish what she started. So yes, Marsha and Forks Row Pottery will live on in one more of so many ways. I could go on forever, but after 44 years, that would almost feel like cheating. Thank you. Thank you very much. I have left some papers on the table over there that I wrote, and with a little poem on the back. If anybody wants one, they can take one. And again, thanks guys, you know. I mean, there's nothing more that I can say.
Marsha Dawn Cox. Well, meeting Marsha was certainly the dawn of a new chapter in my life. Just over 16 years ago, on the recommendation of a mutual acquaintance, I auditioned painting on pottery to see if I'd be a fit in the role of a pottery decorator. My brush skills passed the test, but I had a learning curve to work through, becoming familiar with the idiosyncrasies of the medium of underglaze oxides. Marsha was so patient. Even when I accidentally used black oxide instead of cobalt blue on a whole kiln batch of pottery. They look so similar in the little pots in the dim light and when they dry on bisqueware. Marsha said the black irises in the garden mix weren't so bad, they would be one of a kind, as everything else was. She was always patient and always kind. I would say that kindness was one of her greatest hallmarks. Kindness and generosity. She took everyone as they were and always found something to appreciate about us all. Marsha didn't hold on tightly to physical things. She packed lightly for her life's journey, but she did collect friends and experiences. She had so many wonderful stories about the places she had traveled to, and the friends she collected in those places often dropped in to visit with her. She had a way about her that made it easy to stay in touch, with no demands. She went with the flow of life. And with the assorted friends came food and parties. I had never worked a job before where so much food was shared, and recipes. To this day, I have some wonderful recipes for Marsha that have become a part of the fabric of my food life. Maple parsnip soup, curried cauliflower soup, those are two favorites. Soups that are best served in Marsha's bowls. Marsha donated bowls to the Empty Bowls fundraiser for charity and gave pottery for other good causes. She was community-minded and loved to be involved, ever generous and thoughtful. She frequently put others before herself. One Christmas, she gave me one of her bowls as a gift. It was one that she had used herself for a number of years. She loved the rich Bennington glaze on it and thought that I would enjoy it as much as she did. And so she passed it on to me. I do love it. It's gorgeous. And I think of that conversation every time I use it. All of us. She gave me a part of herself when she gave me that bowl. I will treasure it. When it comes to pass it to someone else, we will enjoy it as much as they do. Marsha worked hard in the pottery, but it was never a difficulty demanding boss. She was more of a friend than a boss. Her love for her craft inspired those of us who had the privilege to work with her, to do our best. I'm so thankful that she gave me the ability to work on new designs and to make old patterns of my own. She was always curious to learn new things, and working for her was a perfect place to grow and expand skills. I so appreciate what she allowed me to do, to create and to become. I watched her many times graciously make way to allow young people to experience and grow with creativity and in job skills as well as in character. She considered each person a unique treasure. She accepted us all as we were, without judgment. She learned from each relationship and lived in the moment. Some people wanted more from her than she had to give, and some may have been frustrated with the ease in which she let go of control of things and circumstances. But she lived in the moment. That's a lesson from all of us. Life is too short to get the knickers in a knot for temporary things. We definitely can't take anything with us from our time to step into eternity, so it would be good for us to remember Marsha's wisdom, to travel lightly, and truly value and love our friends and our family. Marsha was a light that danced through our lives, always sharing her curiosity, her love of new discoveries, joy in everything. Knowing her was a true privilege. When Becky asked me to sing today, I immediately thought of two songs. Right now I'm going to do the first one, which is called Dancing by You. I think it describes her pretty well. Light in your eyes, I see it rise. Joy for sorrow, force of life. Sureness knowing, peace and growing. Cuts through questions like a knife. Rhyme and reason, every season. Simply nothing more than celebration, contemplation, seeing through an open door. Reaching hope to touch your soul, balancing on edge of space, leaving there, daring to share, then see light upon your face. In the dark, I see the spark, memory within your eyes. All you carry, thoughts you ferry, sleep, waking paradise. Peace and growing cuts through questions like a knife, reaching for to touch your soul, balancing on edge of space, leaving there, daring to share, dancing light upon your face, dancing light upon your face, dancing light upon your face.
I'm just gonna, this is Jane.
I didn't introduce myself.
I just wanted you to know that she decorates, she does the bees and, iris.
The garden and the iris and anything else we ask you to all remember it. She's never said no.
Marsha is coming next to speak and then,
And I go slow, sorry. I think Marsha left me a little gift. She had a broken ankle at some point, and I think I got one, just imitate her. But, hi, I'm Marsha, and I met Marsha, when we were both doing Green Party, even though I had already bought pottery from her, but never really getting to know her. I bought things for gifts for other people when I lived in Wayne. But we started hanging out at Green Party meetings here in Beamsville, and Juliet, her dog, would always find her way into the kitchen, and I would inevitably be in the kitchen putting out the coffee, the tea, and the other things, and eventually Marsha would make her way in, and so the conversation would start. And thus began a journey of social justice causes with Marsha. Marsha was passionate about such a wide spectrum of social justice causes. Most recently, she was involved with the closure of the Port Colborne Critical Care Unit that she really fought hard and would attend lots of meetings. Oh, you can't hear me, sorry. Is that better? Yes? Okay, sorry about that.
Really close.
Have to go really close. Okay, sorry, I'm not used to this. But Marsha, in her passion, was really, she met Fiona, sitting here with a big smile on her face, and Fiona really fueled Marsha's knowledge and depth of knowledge in the whole issues of the Palestinian causes, and it became something she loved. But it was not exclusive. She and I spent so much time on political issues of supporting the Green Party. We would hop in cars and go knock on doors for Mike Schreiner, and then still not close enough, sorry. And it was not unusual to get phone calls from Marsha to learn how to fine-tune her writing to a local MP, or she was going with whomever to go and fight for a cause, and she was never afraid to tackle a project, any project, and she experienced, of all people I ever met in my life, she experienced the full spectrum of all parts of life. And if I could count on her for an adventure, always for an adventure. And those were some of my favorite times. Even though I'm gonna desperately miss our phone conversations. We would talk for hours about recipes, diet, supplements, causes, what she heard on CBC at 4 o'clock in the morning while she was on the turning on the table there. And yeah, it's hard to think that, even now, I sometimes think, I gotta call Marsha, and it's like, no, she's not there. But we also had so many adventures. We ended up at Lake Erie, camping, and she's the only person who in her mid-70s would sleep in a tent with me at the lake shore, and then, hop in, and we took our blow-up kayaks or blow-up paddle boards, and off we'd go. But one of my favorite memories of Marsha, and Jay, you spoke it, she lived it, she embodied it, and she was so in the moment of it. One of my favorite memories, it was a sunny day, and our cottage is on a little bit of a bay, and there's an island. You can imagine a little island off the point of this little space. And I looked out one day, and there's Marsha. She's on the paddleboard, on her back, laying there with the sun streaming down on her. But it's an area where boats often go whizzing through. And I was panicking, thinking, oh my God, like, what do I do? How do I get out there to save Marsha? And then I thought, no, just say a prayer. She's got angels. She had angels everywhere around her. And it was a real lesson for me to just relax, go with the flow, and trust. And I was so grateful. It's a lesson that I would love to paint, somebody to paint a picture for me of Marsha floating. And you never know her age, because her level of energy outwitted the aging process. I swear, she was the only person I knew I could say to, I got a new paddleboard, do you want to go? And you know, there she was in her 70s. And we would go up to the cottage, and I had 2 big dogs, and she had a love of dogs. But my guys were big. I had a 125-pound, he was supposed to be a Bouvier, and he was a swimmer. He loved swimming, so we'd always go out swimming. But one day, Marsha and I are at the end of the dock, and there was a mother duck with her ducklings paddling by, and didn't my Pazu, my big honking dog, see this dog and jump off the end of the dock and go chasing after it. You've never seen 2 women get in a I had a kayak, or what are they called, the dual pot kayaks. We both jumped in trying to catch up with my 2 dogs who were chasing these ducklings, and you'd never know she was in her 70s. And we did, we managed to catch up with these dogs, and it was like, wow. Yeah, it was something else. It was really something else. And one of my other favorite moments is thinking about Marsha. We got to the cottage, and my nephew had just a small boat at the dock, and it was sank. It had sunk. It was filled with water. And there's Marsha and I thinking, we're going to save this thing, and we're getting, you know, yogurt containers, and we're taking the water out. Half an hour later, we're going, how come we haven't made any difference? And we look around, yeah, 2 old ladies here. And we look around, we realize the back of the boat had sank, and the water kept flowing in as fast as we were pulling it out, it was coming back in. And there's Marsha. She just sat on that front of that boat. We finally did manage to raise it up out of the water. So she is something. She is a treasure. She really is a treasure. And I smile every time I think of her, and I think I'm so grateful she had a death that didn't drag her down as she would have wanted, because we talked about it, and she said, I don't want to suffer at the end. And I think Becky made sure she didn't. She was in a good place. And when she died, I thought, oh my gosh, there she is. She's on another adventure. I have no doubt in my mind that Marsha is out there, you know, filling in everybody and just bringing light to all the other little spirits out in the world. And so, yeah, I find it hard to be sad, because I think she's on another adventure. And although I am going to miss her, just can't imagine how much I'm missing her already. But anyways, I think I hope I touched enough on the social causes Becky asked me to talk about. And if anyone wants to know more about Palestine, talk to Fiona. Thank you.
Thank you, Marsha.
So, I'm Sarah, Marsha's niece, and Aunt Marsha was never really one of us. She was a star child. You know, she just, I don't know how else to explain it. I want to tell you a story about Christmas. We usually got pottery for Christmas, and I remember one year I noticed my mug had a little crack in it, and I felt kind of disappointed. I didn't want to complain or not be thankful, but I was like, you know, everyone else got nice pottery, and then mine has a little crack. So finally I said something, and that's when Aunt Marsha taught me about the Japanese art of kintsugi. So instead of seeing a crack as a flaw, see it as uniqueness. So when something breaks, you put it together and put some gold in between the cracks, and now the mug is worth more than when it was originally made. So that was something beautiful that I learned. I want to talk about a couple of her adventures. One takes place in 1968 in Uganda. So she was going to be going to Soroti. She was transferring to a new location, and she was on her motorbike. It's a rough road. There was, it started raining cats and dogs. There was no street lights. It was getting dark, and it was really hard for her to drive. But then she noticed a military truck in front of her, so she just kept following that military truck for like an hour or so. I don't know how long they were going. Eventually the truck pulled over and they stopped at a gas station. And so Aunt Marsha pulled over at the gas station as well, and she asked the soldiers for a ride. Now, this is kind of unheard of on many levels. First of all, she didn't really speak Swahili. She's also a white person talking to black soldiers. No one really talked to the military. This was just before the military coup, a couple of years later, and so it was pretty considered unsafe. But the soldiers said they would give her a ride, and they got to Soroti. Again, it was raining. They let Marsha have a shotgun. Well, another soldier had to sit in the back in the rain. And they got to Soroti, and they asked her where she needed to go. And she hadn't really received the address of where she was going to be staying yet. Someone just told her to go to this club, and someone would pick her up. So she mentioned the name of the club, and they're like, okay, we'll take you there. Which again was really awkward because this was an all-white gentleman's club. But they're like, okay, we'll drop you off. And she gets to the club, and again, women didn't really go to clubs in that time. So she arrives there, and it was packed. And she, as she starts walking up to the front, the crowd of people just splits like like the Red Sea there. And she just went up to the front and sat down and waited for someone to come and pick her up. So that's, we are very thankful that she's lived a long and healthy life this far. So I was really thankful that she and Peter got to visit me when I was in Korea. I'd only been there for a couple of months. And we went to go and visit my friend Myung-Jun, who lives in Yosu, okay? And my boss had asked, she'd given me the time off, and then she changed her mind and said I had to come back a day early to cover another teacher's vacation. Welcome to Korean Hagwons. And so our last night there, Aunt Marsha woke up in the middle of the night and she started coughing really bad. And finally she's like, I think I need to go to the hospital. So Myung-Jun and Peter took her to the hospital, and they called me a little bit later, and they're like, she needed her passport to get into the hospital, so I need to go and bring her her purse. Now, Yosu it's a pretty big city, but they don't have street lights in certain areas, so I had to walk by myself in the dark. After Myung-Jun had already told me several ghost stories that he had seen a ghost in the cemetery. Now, I didn't believe in ghosts, but I also believed that Myung-Jun wouldn't lie. So I'm just like, I don't know. This is just keep walking, just keep walking. And Aunt Marsha is the only person I know that could have a good time in a hospital. So I had to go back to work the next day. Peter and I took the KTX back to Incheon. Mr. Kim, Myung-Jun's father, went to visit her in the hospital as she was having breakfast. And he's like, is there anything I can do for you? And she looked down at this fish, and the eyeball just looked up at her, and they made eye contact. And she's like, I could use a hamburger right now. So Mr. Kim went out to McDonald's and he got her a couple of burgers. Okay, so she was really thankful for all the care that she got from the Kim family. And when she was in the hospital, she had a roommate. Now this lady was part of an art club, And her friends were visiting her every day. They'd bring her a Perry baguette, which is like bread, cookies, that kind of like little snacks, and they shared with Aunt Marsha. Now one day, the lady's friends decided to take her out for an outing, and they invited Aunt Marsha to go too. And so of course she was up for the ride, and so they unhooked her IV, and they took her out the back door and drove up a mountain. They went for a hike and a beautiful picnic. And apparently there was a mariachi band there too. I don't know how the mariachi band got up in a mountain in Korea, but apparently that was a thing. So yes, she just, you know, even when she was in the hospital, she didn't let things stop her. Now, Peter and I had to go back to Incheon. I was extremely stressed out because I had to go back to work. It's hard for me to focus on work and teaching these kids while Aunt Marsha's down there. She doesn't speak Korean, and you know, she's just in a hospital by herself. But yeah, she had a great time down there. Now, when she came back to Incheon, Peter had to go back to school, so it was just the two of us. We went to Dunkin'